Hello and welcome to Launerin's Gamerscore and welcome back to Warhammer Vermintide 2. This week I've decided to take a little bit more of an in-depth look into the game and kind of explain to you some of the features and stuff that are involved within it. So without further ado, let's jump right in. As I mentioned in the previous video, there is an online and an offline mode. We're just going to stick with offline for now. And we'll have a little bit of a look at the online mode later on. So first things first, I want to talk about the different classes that are available to you. Essentially each class has got their own special moves and rules to go with it, and each has a speciality. So you have got a hard-hitting halberd wielder that can boost morale and things like that. You have got a dwarf who is basically just a survivalist kind of character and can use his weapons accordingly. You then have your essentially a ranged character, has more ammunition and things like that, and special ranged attacks and stuff like that. And then you've got your witch hunter, so they deal extra damage against chaos enemies and things like that, and they have other special abilities that gives them bonuses against certain types of attacks. And then finally we've got the battle wizard, which kind of speaks for itself really. They're the spellcaster of the group, so yeah, they're specialising in fire and doing ranged fire attacks to destroy your enemies. Me personally, I prefer a little bit of ranged, so I usually go for the Waste Rider. So like I mentioned briefly in the previous video, you've got this area here, which is essentially your mission select area. So before we jump into a mission, we have got the quests and challenges book. So every day, week and special events, you get new quests. Obviously, because I've only just installed this game, I haven't got my weekly quests come through yet, and I'm a little bit on the way to completing my daily ones, as you can see. So then, in addition to that, you have got your daily, your challenges, which range from a variety of things that you can complete during each mission, on specific missions and things like that. But I think for now we will just go and take a look at the missions that are available to us. So if you go onto your mission select screen, you've got 3 options available to you on the top there. So you've got your quick play, custom game and heroic deed. Still not entirely sure what the heroic deed one is. I haven't come across a game that is set as one of those ones yet. Custom game is just what it says on the tin. You can choose your mission and choose your difficulty. Quick play is your main one that you would use when you're online. Obviously we're playing offline mode. To begin with, you can only choose the recruit difficulty setting until you have a hero power of 110 or 115, and then that unlocks the higher difficulties. So there we go, and then once you've selected your mission, you go down to your Bridge of Shadows, and then that teleports you into the mission itself.
I've had reports of rock blood foraging parties in the vicinity of Usingen. Now, that's bad enough, but it turns out some folk were too stubborn to show a clean pair of heels when it all went south. Now, we can't sit by as the crotchety old fools are being shipped off to Helmgart to be used as fodder for the Skittergate in one way or another. Make your way to Morgan's Loft Farm and save as many as you can.
So, similar to the Mordheim game, you have this kind of narrative to each mission to kind of give you a purpose for the mission, and then you jump into the game. Starting the mission, you do get this little kind of panning shot, eventually going towards your party, and then you're in the game.
The farms must be searched. There may yet be survivors.
These farms are near defenseless. This'll be bad.
Remember not to kill the survivors by mistake. That manner of thing upsets folk.
No sense sticking to the road over the fence.
So essentially you've got this big open field with lots of enemies in it, but it very, very quickly fills up, and you do tend to lose track a little bit of what's going on. If you're into the kind of games where precision is key, then this game probably isn't for you. I'll tell you that now. Because fact of the matter is, you can stand near enemies and just swing your sword about, and that'll usually do the job. So every now and again you do get these big targets turn up, which are difficult to take down, especially if you're just endlessly firing arrows at them. I do like the nice touch that the arrows do kind of stay in them. Because it does add a little element of kind of realism to it. As real as the Warhammer universe can get, at least. So at this point I'm not really 100% sure on controls. I'm not comfortable with them all yet, so I'm just kind of finding my feet and trying to figure out how to do a decent amount of damage. So there's the battle horn sounded. So that basically means that we're going to have an endless kind of horde of enemies coming through. And a rat ogre. So once again you've got the a big enemy that's difficult to take down, and this one even has its own health bar. The rat ogres are kind of like mini boss, so to speak, and I found that the best way to take them down is to just keep hitting them. Don't try and do ranged attacks and things like that. Just keep hitting them until they go down. So I just picked up a dice which gives you an added bonus at the end of each mission, which is always good because it means that your character levels up and things like that. You get more power. So once again, more enemies, just kind of hacking and slashing my way through them. So we'll jump ahead a little bit now and see what's going on a little bit later. So at this point, we found ourselves working our way down a kind of winding path, which given me a little bit of an opportunity to just use my ranged attacks to pick off enemies in the distance before they can get to us.
I know that sound. Rattling gunner.
Again, another special enemy, the rattling gunner, is just a big kind of poison weapon that gets fired at you, which you will see shortly. There was one earlier on, but I didn't get a chance to talk about it because it was gone as soon as it had appeared. So one thing that I did find a little bit confusing about this game is, there we go, there it is. Yeah, they've taken him down. Is that each mission is very linear. There's kind of a set route through each mission and each map, so that you can't really deviate too much. But this area here is quite open, and there's no real clear way of realising where you need to go unless you follow the road. And I believe I do get a little bit confused in a little while because I'm not sure which way down the road I started to come. And I believe we're about to meet another one of the special enemies that does just creep up on you. There he is. And just starts stabbing you like that. And he just basically jumps around, and he's very difficult to hit, especially with ranged weaponry.
That looks like what you lot would call a healing draft.
Yeah, very helpful NPC communication there, letting us know about the healing draft. So we can hear more Skaven. Once again, you have this kind of intense music start up in the background that lets you know that there's a lot of enemies coming, basically. And as you can see, they are literally just... well, they're not overrunning us, but they are certainly trying to. So, like I was saying earlier, you can have all of these enemies coming at you, and you can literally stand in one place and swing your sword about, and you'll take any down that come near you, or at least that's what I found anyway. Because that massive horde of Skaven is now done and gone. So let's just jump forwards a little bit and see what's happening later on. So you occasionally come across these kind of ammo refill points, which just fill your ammo all the way back up to the top, which is nice because they seem to be dotted around quite regularly. So the bell is signalling that there are lots of enemies coming, and there's the music as well. So the character that I'm using, their special ability is that they basically fire multiple arrows and then they track and kill any targets that they hit, which is handy when you've got a few enemies coming at you. And
Come, Scunner. My disdain alone will fell you.
you are unsure whether you'll be able to tangle all of them once they get there. So once again, I spend a lot of my ammo trying to take down this big brute, when I probably should have ran in behind him and just started hitting him with my sword, as that probably would have wielded better results. So like I say, that was kind of a prime example of what I was saying earlier about how and yes, you can kill the animals. I had to find that one out. Yeah, that was a prime example of kind of when you've got a lot of enemies close by and things just do get a little bit confusing and you're not really sure whether you're hitting your enemies or whether you're hitting just air. So it's very handy that you get these little kind of waypoints come up to your next objective, which is always helpful, especially when you're trying to find a little tiny key that you can't even pick up unless you're pointing your crosshair directly at it, and you can't tell where it is because of the waypoint that it's on top. That's on top of it. There we go. So that was another one of those cannons. So I just whipped out my special attack just to automatically take him down, basically. So there we go. I fire off a few arrows into him, and it's really not doing that much damage. So here you go. This is the best way to deal with a rat ogre. Just get behind him and just keep hitting him. And to be honest, if your entire team somehow manages to time all of their attacks right, you basically can stun him a little bit so he can barely attack, which kind of happened there. So I'll pick up another one of the dice. There we go. Which gives us a little bit more experience at the end, which is always nice. So once again, we've got some hordes coming in. So I just spend the next few minutes constantly swinging my sword. And what we've got here is a, well, it's a strategy. Basically, most of the enemies in the game, or at least in this mission, at this point in the game, they all seem to be close combat. So you can stand on a ledge and just wait for the enemies to come to you. They do climb up, but you can attack them as they're climbing. And if you've got a fast weapon, like the Way Watcher has with the swords, then you can quite easily take them down as they climb up, even if there's hundreds of them coming at you. What I will say at this point is that this is obviously, it's supposed to be an online game, you play with other people, and to be honest, things like this I'd usually expect kind of a 5-minute game time. Just kind of a quick mission, you go out, you kill some Skaven, and then that's the mission done. But each mission does take about half an hour, I've found. And I'll be quite honest, once I've done one mission, because everything does get so intense, and it's very apt that I've got all of these enemies kind of coming at me at the minute to kind of prove that point. You don't really feel like doing another mission in a row, or like 2 missions in a row, or at least that's the way that I felt after I played it. I enjoyed playing it, don't get me wrong, and it visually it looks very good, but it just feels like such a long time that you're playing for that you might not want to feel like you can do it again if that makes any sort of sense. So what I've picked up here is an exploding barrel, which you can throw at your enemies and then fire an arrow at, and that will somehow ignite it, which is useful for when you've got hordes of enemies coming in. And there's one of them Gatling gunner types up there. There we go, and then it ignites the area like that, and that usually does just purge the area of any enemies that are there. This was a kind of interesting scenario, kind of area to the map, I found, because I think this specific area relies quite heavily on ranged attacks, because you can take out a lot of the enemies in the area with your ranged attacks. And then obviously you've got your ammo replenishment just behind me there. So there we go, and then you can come over this side and take out any enemies that are over this side as well. And he's coming up over this bridge.
The Chaos Warrior, just what we
Another big warrior who I spend ages firing arrows at, and then it occurs to me that I have found his weak point. There we go. Because the gap in the armour underneath the helmet and before the best breastplate, that's where you've got to aim. You've got to be very precise and hit them exactly there in order to deal any sort of damage to them, which I found absolutely amazing. That is a very, very nice touch. It's realistic, basically, because if you shoot an arrow at a breastplate, it's not going to do much.
But who knows? Perhaps it just needs another millennium or two.
So the music started up again, and this is a prime example of using the map to your advantage, so to speak. Because you've got enemies climbing up, and you're just taking them out as they glitch through the platform before they can even land a blow. So I think the deal with kind of the music and the approaching horde is the music's there to warn you it's about to happen, but I think there's specific kind of areas that you need to get to before the horde actually comes, because as you can see,
Free your fellows, mayflies.
it's relatively quiet, and then I come down to here, and that's when it all starts to kick off a little bit. But once again, I'm on a nice little platform that I can just take advantage of the enemy's stupidity. I will admit, I'm not a massive fan of doing things like this. I prefer to do things the way that the game intended for them to be done, but in this game in particular, especially with dealing with a lot of enemies all at once, it's just a lot easier just to use the platform method. So now
It's to be numbers
there's
against skill again.
another exploding barrel there. I can hear the horde approaching, so I just chuck it down there and then just try and hit it with an arrow. And then realise that the horde isn't coming. And then it is, and then it isn't. So I just set the bomb off to explode, and then that just kills a few of them, so that's absolutely fine with me. There we go, so there's a gas rat thrown a gas bomb, and that's made it very difficult for us in this enclosed area. So we're going to try and get out of here as quick as possible. And there we go, we're out. Skipped ahead to near the end of the mission. You can see the final waypoint just over here. Just kind of cleaning up the last few of the enemies. And then we'll jump in here and wait for everybody else to come in, and then that'll finish the mission off. Against the grain, because it was all set in a mill. Isn't that clever? So you get your experience points for the end of the mission. You get extra experience for the collected loot dice, which is the dice that the rat ogres dropped. And then you can, depending on how you did in the mission, you upgrade your loot crate. Because this game has loot crates, apparently. So we're going to take a look at that system now. So at the end of your mission as well, you do get this lovely leaderboard letting you know who did best. So essentially you're looking for just who has the most green circles. Because that denotes that you've got a high score. So here we are back in the keep. So the first thing that we're going to do is just take a look at these chests or strong boxes or loot crates or whatever you want to call them. Now obviously each one has 3 items in it. Each item you can equip, and it gives you bonus power points, which basically makes your hero stronger or has more health or things like that. And if you get it up to the 110, like I was mentioning earlier, then you can unlock the harder difficulty modes and play on the harder difficulty modes, which will mean that you will unlock better equipment and things like that. So obviously with it being a low level mission, I've only got kind of some basic equipment, but considering that I've just unlocked this basic equipment, I am still playing at this point in offline mode, which means none of the equipment that I unlock here will be carried over into the online mode in which the game is supposed to be played. But it's still nice to kind of have a look and see some of the equipment that you can unlock, even if you don't unlock it in the main game. Like all RPGs, this game has got a crafting system. So you can destroy your weapons in order to get extra materials and things like that, and then improve your weapons and upgrade them if you have got the right materials. So I'm just having a look at some of the other stuff available. There's a talent tree as well, and the crafting menu. So you can salvage stuff in order to gain more materials, craft things if you've got said materials, and then you can upgrade items or re-roll the properties on items and things like that. So it's a very extensive system, and it does kind of confuse me a little bit because I haven't had a chance to play around with it too much because I haven't got the materials yet, so I don't know what a lot of it actually means. And then you've got a cosmetics system as well. I don't know whether these things are unlocked through the loot crates or whether they are DLC, but I'm sure I'll find out in time. So I'm just going through and having a look at how I can improve my character, and then we will go and jump into the online mode and have a little bit of a chat about that. Alright, so we've switched over onto the online mode now. So obviously quick play is where we're going to go. The custom game we don't want, and the heroic deed still completely bewilders me. So we're just going to jump into a quick play, which will automatically put us into a mission with some other people. I was quite impressed with just how short time it actually found a mission for me, which was quite good.
Turns out Alicia's having trouble extending the Bridge of Shadows into certain areas around Helmgard. She's traced the disturbance to an old elven temple north of here. I need you to put things right. Otherwise, you're going to be walking everywhere and we just won't have time for that.
So yeah, with the first Vermintide game, I always found that finding missions, finding servers to go on to did take a little bit of a long time, but that might have been because not many people were playing it when I first started. So one thing with joining halfway through a mission, which this does occasionally do, is that you do miss some of the story plot or instruction on what you need to do in the mission. For example, I've just come in, there's enemies everywhere, I don't really know where I'm supposed to be going or what I'm supposed to be doing, so I'll just start hacking away and just trying to kill stuff, because in front of me now there is a kind of half destroyed temple with bits floating in the air, so I have no idea what's going on and I don't know what I need to do. So to start with, I'm just going to kind of hang back a little bit and just see what everybody else does. So all in all, your online experience isn't much different to your offline experience. The only real difference is that with the AI players offline, they tend to kind of huddle round you and follow you around. They don't tend to go off on their own to do things like the rest of my squad is doing now, while I just sit up here and kind of hide and just kill any Skaven that come near. Didn't realise that they exploded when I was attacking him, so that was a little bit of a downside. So at this point I'm just trying to kind of help out as much as I can, even though I don't really know what I'm doing. I did notice that one of my teammates was fiddling with something on top of one of the platforms, but when I went up there to have a little bit of a check, they were either all already pressed or I couldn't interact with them, so I just left them to it and we cracked on with the mission. There we go, we've just got these hordes of Skaven coming down and I'm taking a battering. Like I say, no idea what's going on there, but they seem to have sorted it amongst themselves. And now our next waypoint is at the Bridge of Shadows, so that is mission complete. So while my first mission, the one that I did offline, took me about half an hour, that mission there was probably around 10-15 minutes, because they were already halfway through it. They collected the loot dice, so we get lots of bonus experience, which is always good. And then I unlock some chests and things like that, so I can unlock some weapons in online mode now. And we can upgrade the strongbox a little bit as well. Which is always good. So obviously my scores were not very high in this mission because I wasn't in there for that long. What I did find, I don't know whether it's a case of all of the other players left or whether there was a problem with the server. I'm not 100% sure. But while I was in the keep, sorting out my chests and things like that and having a look at my new weapons, it did boot me from the server, so I'm not sure whether there's some issues with their servers when I was playing it or whether it's just a case of everybody left, but that is one downside of it. So I got a few little bits just to kind of upgrade my character a little bit. And then we'll go and have a closer look at the challenges and claim some of those as well. So that's more equipment that I can get from more of the strong boxes. So I've completed challenges, which is denoted by the star, just so you don't get too lost in the menus. Which is all very well and good. So that completes my kind of more in-depth look at the game. I hope that I have kind of filled you in on the game a little bit more and maybe persuaded you to go out and buy it or download it, because it's that sort of world we live in now. You don't even need to leave your house to buy things. So thank you very much for watching. If you did like this video, please do like, share and subscribe, and I will see you next time, and hopefully it won't just be a month of Vermintide, but who knows. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.